Hello, I'm Sarah Ruffi. I am the Woman Warrior Lawyer, and today I am chatting with Nathan Halama, owner of Halama's Martial Arts. Dolly Halama, how about if you introduce yourself briefly, tell us where you're from and what you do?
Okay. Yeah, my name is Nathan Halama. I'm a 6th-degree Grand Master in Taekwondo. So I teach right here in Wausau right now. I grew up in Whitehall, Wisconsin. And I've been doing Taekwondo since I was about 5 years old. I learned from my grandmaster who was in Eau Claire. And he's still sort of teaching there now.
So were you a scrapper when you were a kid that got you into martial arts, or how did that happen?
No, I actually had really bad coordination. Like when I was, I think in the 3rd grade, they said I had the coordination of a 3-year-old or something. Like it was really bad. And so, plus they didn't really diagnose you back then, but they pretty much said I had ADHD, and I
can't imagine why. Sorry.
Now it's just focused, and then I also was dyslexic, so I wrote backwards. And so my mom put me into Taekwondo to help all of those problems. And I just really liked it and never stopped. So
do you think her goal in putting you into Taekwondo was for the discipline or the focus or burning off energy, or all of the above?
All of the above. Yeah, all of the above. Taekwondo is, designed specifically to teach you how to focus. And so, we like to say that, we don't cure people from ADHD, but like we can get people off of like ADHD medication, like by the time they're a red belt, which is a little bit further than halfway. And it's not because we've changed them. We just teach you how to take all that energy and focus it into a smaller point and put that energy into something more productive, rather than just everything you see, you just like are scatterbrained all over the place.
So you bundle it up and package it up and redirect the energy.
Yeah. And so we just, give that energy a place to go, right?
Where focus goes, energy flows.
I've heard that somewhere, yeah.
I think so. I think you probably heard that when you were walking on fire.
Yep.
And how would you explain that experience?
There's another exact moment, the same sorts of thing as Taekwondo. Like it was about that focus, they were that whole time walking across the coals. It wasn't, you don't want to stop and take a selfie, right? It was focused. People were doing that, right? Yeah. But you don't want to, that's how you get burned, right? You have to focus on what you're doing, get your mind in the right spot, and then you just plow through straight, and you don't lollygag or sit and, count the roses. You walk through it and you do it with determination, and you get your focus in the right spot.
And cool moss, right?
Right, yeah.
So you
remember what we said.
Cool moss.
Yeah.
So you walked on coals at a Tony Robbins event, and I know because I was also there. When you look back on that weekend and of Unleash the Power Within, and you compare it against growing up as a kid with ADHD and lack of coordination, who got put into Taekwondo to bundle that energy and focus it. Did you see correlations and things where your Taekwondo actually helped you out at Unleash the Power Within?
Yeah, well, and actually it was kind of the other way around in a lot of ways, because Unleash the Power Within it's kind of like a martial art thing, but it like brought it out for me. It brought my martial arts more to a broader base. Like, I feel like I did really good in Taekwondo, but it's harder to bring it out in your real life, where that whole seminar was, he taught the same aspects we teach in Taekwondo on a daily basis. It's just that he brought it outside the walls of Taekwondo and showed us how how you change your state and how you change things. And, we do that in Taekwondo all the time, but then we'd put it into a different context of, it's not just when you're fighting. You don't just all of a sudden make yourself that way when you're fighting, but you can do it anytime. You can do it, walking down the street. If you don't feel very good, or you don't, absolutely any time of the day, you can just change your state, change how you feel, and then change your focus, and then go to where you want to go, versus, which I knew that, but I don't know. It just
clicked.
Right. It clicked. He brought it out into a different way, and I was able to, after that, do it anytime that I wanted to do it, because I've been practicing it every day in Taekwondo. And all of a sudden, when I got the link, I was like,
hello.
Well, I can just do it. Yeah, I can just do that anytime, and then I did.
So after UPW, have you incorporated some of those principles into your classes at your own gym?
Oh yeah, most of them. Yeah. As many as I can. I'm constantly still watching YouTube videos and listening to stuff from him nonstop. So it's I'm always incorporating more, adding more into it.
And how are the kids responding?
Good. The new kids don't know any difference now. Anybody who's come in, which we've had a lot of new people in since June, and, they don't know any difference. They just think the whole world is a big dance. They just think Taekwondo is about jumping around and
isn't it?
Changing your state. Well, it wasn't before, but
all right. So the people that were at your gym, your core, what was their reaction when you came back from UPW and you were all fired up and you were going to change the way we do business?
Yeah. They thought I was nuts. Yeah.
Well, they probably knew that before.
Right. Now they really thought I was nuts. Yeah. I felt like when I came back, I felt like everybody else was at like this snail's pace. Like they were barely moving. Like I go to the grocery store and I could hardly stand it. I felt like everybody was like, it would take them 10 seconds to take a step. And I was like focused. I was going to go get my chips and my drinks and whatever I wanted and get out of the store, where they were like looking around and lolling. And I felt like that with everything. Like I was focused on where I was going, and I was doing it at 100 miles an hour. And I think it was freaking people out when
So at some point, did you step back and say, okay, now it's time it's okay to be laser focused, but you gotta breathe, and it's okay to just relax.
Well, it ebbs and flows. Like if I start talking about it like we are now, I can feel the energy like build, and I can feel it hype up, and I want to just start doing it. I want to start teaching it. But if I don't teach it for a little while, then it kind of goes down. But I'm always talking about focus, because that's just what we do anyway. But yeah, it's just kind of that's kind of a normal thing anyway. But once I get talking about it, it gets me all fired up. Yeah, I can feel it. I can feel it running. And even if I just start teaching it a little bit, it's like, yeah.
So you're married.
Yep.
And you have 2 kids.
Yep.
And all 4 of you are black belts.
Yes. Yep.
Was your wife, did she have her black belt when you guys met?
No.
How did she get into it? Just because she wanted you to like her?
No, we were already married. Like, well, we were just, when I moved here, I opened a gym, and, of course everything's half hers. And my master's wife, only made a first degree black belt. And I think that she gets a little less respect because a first degree black belts in the black belt era spectrum.
In the black belt world?
In the black belt world is pretty low on the totem pole. And so even if you've been in Taekwondo for 35 years and you have gone to Korea and you know all these things, you're still a first hand and nobody really listens to you. And I think she felt like she should at least learn something about it since she owned it, so she got all the way to a 3rd degree. So that way she can, do testings and test other people and that sort of thing. And then she's kind of stopped. She's really focused on her career now too. So,
and how old are your kids?
Tori's 13 and Quentin's 10.
And how old were they when they started Taekwondo?
They just lived there. Yeah. Like
walking?
When they were in diapers. Yeah. I have pictures of Quentin in diapers kicking boards. So, as soon as they could do anything, they were, but it's their second home. Like, if they're off school, we're at the gym all day. I mean, so even if they're not training all day, it's just, that's where we are, because I own the gym and it's my business. And so, plus they teach 3 classes a night now. So they're there a lot. So
they both teach classes?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what degree black belts are they?
Tori's a 3rd degree and Quentin's a 2nd degree. Yeah. And, and I found a lot that, as long as you, focus on you make sure that you keep them focused, right? Then kids will respond to them way before they respond to me. If Tori and Quentin say
they're on the same level.
They're on the same level. Yep. So if Quentin says, "Oh, you should do this," and then he shows it, they go, "Oh," but if I say you should do it, they just go, "Oh, well, you're old and you're this 6-figure
you're so
grandmaster.
much older, I can't do that."
Right. Or just, I'm so much higher in rank. So even the 3rd and 4th dans, they look at where I am and I'm 15 years in rank away from where they are. They just think, oh, geez, well, I get a lot. Well, that's because it's your business, and I tell them all the time, it's my business because I like it. I love to do it all the time. That's why it's my business. It's not my business because.
Well, I figured out a way to make money doing what I love to do.
Right. Yep.
And once you get that figured out, you don't work a day in your life. Isn't that what the old saying goes?
Yep.
So,
which is kind of a fib, but yeah.
Right. You just
because there's a lot of parts about Taekwondo that I don't, now that it's actually turning into a business versus a sort of club. There's a lot of things that I'm not good at or I don't like to do as far as keeping organized and doing all these things that, I like to teach. That's what I want to do. And that's what so there's a lot of aspects to it that have
So you're an artist.
Complicated.
When you looking at running a business or owning a business, every business owner has to wear 3 hats.
Right.
You wear the entrepreneur hat of, this is a way we got to make money to keep the doors open. You wear the manager's hat of, keep all of the people doing what they need to do, getting all your classes lined up and everybody, the instructors for each class. And then there's the artist of, this is my passion. This is what I do. For you, it's teaching.
Yep.
And we have to wear all of those hats, but one of them is clearly more comfortable than the rest.
Right. Yep.
And yours is clearly the artist hat.
Right. Yep.
Fits like a bug in a rug.
Yeah.
And the other ones we begrudgingly put on because we know we have to, or we find somebody else that is their perfect hat and they can put it on and take care of it for our business. Have you found somebody else that either puts on the entrepreneur hat in your business or the manager hat, or do you still have to wear all 3?
Yeah, I still wear all 3 because I'm not quite to where. So going back to the Tony Robbins thing, one of the lessons in there was, you should never be the smartest person in the room. I mean, I am now currently, but when
only in the gym, my
friend. No, but he had said, you need to find somebody who can mentor you or teach you what you don't know because, you don't know what you don't know. And so then the next year, the year after, I went to Vegas for a martial arts super show, and they had this thing called MAIA, this Martial Arts Industry Association, and basically they just teach you how to run the business, how to make the martial arts a business, and not just a club, not just having couple of people to teach, but possibly hundreds. So I haven't gotten permission yet to start employing people until I get, so they know all the numbers and they know, they walk me through this, and kind of the business aspect of it. And, until I get certain numbers in certain places, I'm not allowed to have employees. And so, they have it all mapped out. And so far it's really been working. So
the program that you entered or you bought, it's kind of like a mentorship program. Would that be fair?
Yeah.
And I know you happen to get a copy of my book.
Yep.
Did you read it?
Yep.
And one of the chapters is on mentoring.
Yeah.
So when you look at your gym, and I know you look at the MAIA, as they're your mentors, and granted, you're paying for their service as well, but they're grooming you to run a successful gym as a practice. How do you mentor the other instructors in your gym, as well as including your kids, to get them to teach your way?
Well, and those are two different things, right? So the Taekwondo part, we're well on our way. I mean, that's every step is laid out in Taekwondo from the time that you start to the forever. So that we've been doing since they started. So the instructors that have been there sometimes, Mr. Bryan's been there for 16 years now. So, 2-3 days a week for 16 years. He's been walking those steps for quite a while.
But those are just techniques, right? Teaching the moves, those are techniques. And I know, like we had talked when you came back from Tony Robbins, you pretty much wanted to mix everything up and bake a different cake.
Right. Yeah.
So I look at that part as being more the mentoring. Anybody can teach the techniques if you have the skills. But the mentoring, when I think of it, really goes above those skills. And it goes to teaching the different principles that we got at UPW or that you get from other training. How have you incorporated that into your mentoring with your
well, and that's kind of part of it, because in Taekwondo, it's all about that anyway, right? I mean, every day is a lesson on whatever focus and skills and all these different things. So the higher you go, the more that you learn those things, and the more basically I repeat the same things over and over and over, until you get them, until they're just ground in it. And those things were ground into my head over and over and over. I didn't make them up. Some things I probably do, some things I change a bit.
But there are different teaching techniques.
Right. And that's the nice thing, because everybody teaches a little bit different. So it's the same concepts, the same principle, but, I might tell somebody that, when they're doing kick, they have to turn their bottom foot, 185 degrees. And, and they just can't seem to grasp that concept. But then, somebody else will say, well, just turn your hips more. And then they go, oh, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? And you're like, well, if you turn your bottom foot, your hips turn, but they're focusing on something different. And so, saying it different, having different people say the same thing, but a different way, a lot of times will help people drastically in how they improve and the way that they think about it. Because, and I don't have, different people have a different approach, to other people that work better sometimes too. Some people are a little bit more laid back, so they teach a little bit more laid back, where, Master Jew is hardcore and I'm hardcore. So I grew up that way. And so that's how I want to be. And, not everybody wants that, so you have to have that kind of,
you got to have the feel.
Right. Yeah. You got to feel it out.
And I know before we started today, we were talking about how our voices project.
Yeah.
And that neither one of us have ever been accused of not being able to project.
And actually, I have. I used to get in trouble a lot.
For not
being loud enough.
So, well, let me just finish my thought. And you had commented that some of the kids, you have to make a conscious effort not to project because you're scaring the little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you were taught that you better project so I can hear you outside of the building, or you're not loud enough. First, tell me about the experience learning how to project that loudly, and then how you balance it out and reconcile it with, this is how I was taught, but now this is what my students actually need.
Yeah, and everybody's different that way, right? So at the time, I was not very loud, possibly. Like, I don't remember, that was a long time already. But I remember he would, give me push-ups if I wasn't loud enough. He'd have to go outside and then make me turn around and face the wall. So that way, and if he couldn't hear me outside, then I wasn't loud enough.
And you had to do push-ups.
Or you had to do push-ups, yeah. And when you have a full room, if you have however many people, and don't put a microphone on when I'm in the gym, so you have to project above, the parents and the students moving around and the heater kicking on and whatever else there might be, phones ringing, you have to be above all of that. So, if you get a kid that's freaked out, like nowadays the biggest thing about it nowadays is pull the mask down and smile so they aren't freaked out from, thinking that you're just mad, so if they can see your body language and they can see your face, so I tend to do that a lot. I step as far away from everybody as I can and I pull my mask off, especially with the little kids. So if I'm not close, then I'll make sure that I can, let them know that I'm smiling or having a good time, and that really calms them down no matter how loud you are.
So how young are your youngest students?
4 and up. Yeah, so we have some really little ones.
So at what point is there kind of like an age bracket where you don't scare the living bejeebies out of them with how loud you can be?
Yeah, about 8 or 9 is where they really like tumbling, they're really wiry, so they can fall on their face 50 times and they just think it's great.
Then,
yeah. They think that's fun and, they'll just keep trying it over and over and over. And they're used to people telling them at that age, they're used to parents just telling them what to do. And so they don't really question it. They just do it. And so you don't get a lot of, that where adults will go, well, is that really what, and then they waste a lot of time with that, because they're questioning whether or not that's the way it should be or where I got the information from or blah, blah, blah. And, I get that. That can be good sometimes, but at the same time, it can slow you down if it's like these people for Maya, I pay them a lot of money to make my business successful. And if every time they tell me to do something, I say, well, but it's just going to slow me down. Like after I have been doing it for a few years and I'm fairly successful, I can start making my own changes as how I see fit. But until then, I just need to shut up
and follow the
rules and learn the rules before I can, even remotely think that I should be able to change them to fit whatever I want. If I don't know the rules, how can I adapt them to make them fit for me? And Taekwondo is exactly like that. You have to learn a lot of extra stuff. And then in the very end, I start taking it all away. I'll be like, you remember all that stuff I taught you? And they'll be like, yeah, you don't need it anymore. Yeah. Forget everything I taught you and get rid of it. And they'll be like, what? I'm like, that was just to get you to here. Now you can start letting go of some of that stuff. But, that takes a lot of time. Yeah. First you got to learn it and then before you can change it, Yeah,
but it's not even just learning it, it's internalizing it. So at that point, it's automatic.
Yeah.
It's just part of your muscles and your physiology. Because to truly know it is to not think about it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And that's how it is with everything like that. Like, I'm learning, how to sell it and how to, ask questions and, selling isn't just, I like to just, when I teach, I tell you how to do it and you do it. When you sell, you don't do that. You ask questions. You find out what they want. It's not the same. You listen. Right? What?
Huh? Did you say something?
And then,
smart Alex.
And so that's a completely different thing from what I do normally. In Taekwondo, it's a lot more, yes or no, sir. We tell you what to do and then
it's
you
like the military.
Follow it. It is.
Don't ask questions, just do it.
It's very, yeah. And there's not a lot of questions that you need to ask. It's not like you're going to get hurt or we're teaching you how to do anything you're not supposed to do. So, they can't see the steps in front of them. So, they question it sometimes, but it's like, we do this with hundreds of people. So, just follow the steps and it works, for everybody.
So you talked about the little kids. You talked about the adults. How about the teenagers?
Yeah, it's all the same. Like, now,
how much attitude do you get with them when they walk in the gym, especially if they don't start when they're little?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Once you put them into a group and everybody's standing up nice and straight and looking at a certain target, people like to do what everybody else is doing. And so typically they just do it. They don't, every once in a while you'll get somebody who's kind of a pain, but you give them a couple sets of push-ups and it's pretty well fixed.
They decide that they don't need the push-ups anymore. They'll fall in line.
Yep. They'll do it. And it's not even about the push-ups. The push-ups are easy. Most of the people in high school or whatever, they can do push-ups. It's the fact they're doing them in front of everybody and they don't like that.
Well,
and so
that was the point.
Yeah. And that's what they don't like. It's
not the push-ups. It's calling attention to my behavior and giving me a consequence to go with it.
Yeah.
Because of course all of our actions have consequences.
Has consequences, right. Yeah. And and that's even bigger than that. Like if they're doing something, I try to stay as close to the parents as I can. And if they're, if they're acting up at home, the worst thing you can do to any kid, like 10 and up, is make them go and apologize to their parents.
Oh, it's pure torture, isn't it?
And I always make them apologize. Yep. We sit down, we talk about it. And if they won't apologize, they just sit in a push-up position until they do. And once they get used to apologizing a little bit, it gets a little easier. But, we all got to learn how to apologize because, we make mistakes. I mean, you're never going to be perfect. So
I think there are a lot of adults who don't know how to apologize.
Oh, and I'm not good at it. I mean,
really?
I try to, but
I never would have guessed.
Well, I haven't been wrong yet.
Oh,
so I don't get the practice.
Is that so? But just remember.
Just ask my wife. She'll tell you that right away. Yeah.
I'm sure what she'll tell me is he believes that he's right all the time, so he never has to apologize.
Right.
But in reality, he should be the one that takes his own lesson and apologizes more.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. So now is a good time for us to take a break before we switch topics.
Okay.
So you are more than just martial arts and your gym.
Says who? I don't know where you heard that, but
it's
don't
a lie.
Spread it around.
I know. We'll keep it between ourselves. I know that your sphere is really small.
It's not really true. Yeah.
Although you do have a couple of unique traits other than I own you. And one of them is speed reading, as I understand. How did you get into speed reading and how did you learn how to do it?
Well, first I just saw it on Criminal Minds and this guy Reed
So who said TV doesn't teach you anything?
Right, yeah. And he could just run his finger down the page, like from top to bottom as fast as he could, and he could read this whole book. And I was like, so I just started wondering if it was even real. Like I didn't even know if that was even a possibility or if it was just some stupid thing they did in the, So I started looking it up, and the more that I looked it up, the more I realized that he was actually slow and that there's some people that can do it. They have competitions on this, and that some people can do it so incredibly fast that they can't even they can't get their finger behind the page. They can read both pages in the time it would take to get your finger behind the page and change it. And that they actually have to practice changing the page because it's too slow for the reading of 2 full pages.
And that would be not you?
Well, and that just intrigues me. I like extreme everything. So I don't know why, but everything that I do, I like it extreme. So if it's just regular reading, I get bored with it. But if it's speed reading, and even if I don't get to that point, it gets me interested in it. And then,
so you got the idea from watching a TV show. How did you actually start?
I started looking it up on YouTube. And then,
because why wouldn't you?
Right. Yeah, you look at everything up on YouTube. And then they actually even have speed reading apps that you can get to help you. It goes through exercises and different things that you can do. And the funny thing is really they just start you out with your finger and you just put your finger on there. And if you move your finger really slow, you'll read slow, but the faster you move your finger, the faster that you'll start to read it. And when you get better, you'll start to forget about things like and, it, the, you'll miss them. You won't read them at all.
You'll just go with the bigger words.
Yep. You'll just go with the bigger words or the important words, and your mind just kind of puts them together as you go along. And I never really got real interested in it. I mean, or I should say good at it, but it just helps me now that I wouldn't say I'm super fast, but if I get bored with something when I'm reading it, a lot of times I'll be like 4 pages in and when I realize that I've been daydreaming that whole time. But if I speed read it, I have to think about what I'm doing, how fast I'm doing it. I have to process it. So I'll actually remember what I read, and I'll actually process that much better if I speed read. So for me, it works a whole lot better than if I don't. Just for the concentration aspect of it.
See, and I would think that if I ever tried it, because for me, every word, comma, period can mean something.
Right. Well, you're a lawyer, so it's way different.
Changes the meaning.
Yeah. Right. Right. And when I read, it's a self-help book, or it's not like I don't have to read important documents to make sure that they all fit neatly into something. If I make a mistake reading, it doesn't probably matter much. On the other hand, it probably would. But, my best friend Scott, when he went to college, that was the first, he was required to take a speed reading class before he even started.
Which makes sense because you have so much reading you got to do.
Yeah.
I just wonder, I've thought about it, and I would think that at a certain point, it's just a matter of skimming through the words without actually letting it sink in. So have you done any research or see the correlation of why you would comprehend better reading faster?
No, I think it's just mostly like me. I just need
the focus.
I need the focus. Yep. I need something to make my brain work and keep me in the moment. And that keeps me in the moment, using my finger, looking at what I'm doing, concentrating on how fast I'm going, and then still making sure that I'm not going so fast that I miss everything.
So have you ever competed?
No.
Not that good?
No. I'd probably read slower than you for all I know. For me, it just helped to focus, and, it sped me up quite a bit. I used to even know how fast I was, but I don't even remember anymore. It's so many pages per minute or whatever it is, but
I'll stick with my words per minute in terms of typing.
Right. And, I can't type at all. So, I can't spell. I can read good, but I can hardly spell my name. So, and there's one of those things that I already have people starting to do things for me, send emails, that sort of thing. So I'm just not good at it.
Well, see, you are delegating.
Well, I always delegate. Yourself. It's just I just haven't gotten to where I pay people to do it yet. Where it's
so you got it figured out that you get the best of both worlds. You get the work done and you don't have to pay for it. Hello. So in addition to your speed reading abilities, you are a hypnotist.
Well, I'm not licensed or anything.
No, you're not.
I was obsessed with that for a while. Yeah, too.
So did that come out of a TV program as well, or you were watching some hypnotist on a video?
No, actually, yeah, I went and saw a hypnotist. And, I saw it and I was just fascinated by it. And the more that I read into it, the more that I really just wanted it for myself originally, because it just increases your focus, increases your healing, increases pretty much everything. So if you get good at self-hypnosis, it can really expand your whole life. So I really studied it for, 5 or 6 years. And then I got into hypnotizing other people. And that was more fun than it was anything else. But
so let's look at the self-hypnosis. Did you have something in mind when you got fascinated about it, or what was it that struck you when you saw this hypnotist live and really piqued your interest? What was it, or what was your goal?
Well, he had just talked about how you remember everything you've ever seen in your entire life. So, from the time that you're born to the time that you die, it's in there someplace. And it's just about recalling it or being able to recall it. And then he put somebody under and they were telling him all kinds of just, crazy things that they remembered, from the day they were born and all these things. And you're like, wow, you remember all that stuff?
Is this for real?
Yeah, is this for real? And so I started getting into it and I started looking into it, and I actually hypnotized my cousin. And I had my mom was there and my his mom, so my aunt, and then her husband was there, and then a couple other people, and I hypnotized him. Took him all the way back to the day he was born, and he knew everything. Wall color. He knew names of nurses. Like he couldn't read back then, but he can now. So he can remember what the name tags look like, and he could remember their names. He could remember times.
And did your aunt verify all of this?
And she was just crying because he was just like so detailed from every little thing that he said that,
You need to put the microphone.
am I too far away? Oh. So every little thing that he said just turned out to be accurate, and like it was freaking people out, right? But then I really got, is this still not working? Oh, then I really got into it because I'm like, wow, if you can remember all that, and then if you can do that to yourself, I mean.
So when you hypnotized yourself, would you go in with a purpose of, I want to figure out this, or I want to go back to this event and see if I'm recalling it correctly? What did you do?
All of it. Yep. So I'd put myself under, and then I would try to remember things. I would try to, enhance what I learned. So if I remember, if I read something, or I was, mostly it's for Taekwondo. Right, so that I could,
of course, because you got a one-track mind.
Right, so mostly so that I could remember the forms, or I could do them the way that Master Ju had said that I should do them. Like, in some ways, it's like if you hypnotize yourself, you can essentially do something in 5 minutes that you might take you 3 months to practice. Right, so if you can get the details perfectly in your mind, you can also do it.
How'd you bring yourself out?
Usually fall asleep. I mean, the problem with it is the theory is a little better than the practice. So, I mean, I think that if you really get good at it, you probably can do a lot of those things, but the idea of hypnotizing yourself is you have to get to this point of relaxation that brings you back into the depths of your mind. And then it's very, very hard not to fall asleep or like wander into something else, and then you wake up later, you realize I didn't do what I wanted to do, and so like now, like on YouTube, there are tons of self hypnosis things. I mean, if you look it up, they'll guide you right through. You want to do weight loss, you want to do this, you want to do that, and they'll actually take you all the way down into hypnosis and then give you the suggestions that you want and then bring you back out, which is way better than doing it yourself. If I hypnotize you, I can guide what you want, and I don't lose that focus because I'm not falling asleep or I'm not getting into that trance, where if you do it yourself, it's very hard to stay focused. It's hard to stay on point.
So when you would do it yourself, would you set your intention and be very clear of what your goal, your purpose for that session was?
Yeah.
And then how did you maintain that focus as you were relaxing to hypnotize?
Well, and that was the hardest part, because when you start getting really good at it, or I don't know if I was really good at it, but when I start to get
you'll say you were, but okay,
better at it, I would there's all these things, like I would start to feel like I was floating, and then I don't know, it just felt cool, and then you'd start to, it was easy to make your mind drift, and then if you thought of something, it was really vivid, so it was easy to escape into like dreamland, kind of, that you could control almost. And so it was very difficult to keep that focus when I was under. And that's why a lot of these YouTube videos and things keep you where you're supposed to be going. Or if you have somebody hypnotize you, they can keep you on that right track, or doing it by yourself is difficult just because you.
So when you would hypnotize others, did they ask you to hypnotize them with a purpose, or did you ever have any where it was, let's just be crazy, and you made people do goofy things?
All of them, yeah. So sometimes we did it with purpose. Sometimes we worked on getting people to stop smoking, or pick up their exercise routine, or stop eating so much garbage.
What was one of the craziest hypnosis sessions you remember?
So I put my mom under one time. and then I did it through trial and error. So when
Mom, you're my guinea pig.
Well, I did it with everybody, but Mom wanted me to do it really bad. So I did it with my mom, and I said, and I would always say, as you're coming back out, you feel really good. You feel very happy. Your body feels really light. And when you come out of hypnosis, you'll feel just like you did when you went in. Cause sometimes people would come out and like things would be like numb, or they would feel super tired. And so I told my mom, like, you're going to feel so good. You're going to be relaxed, and everything's going to be just awesome. She came out and she was just laughing and laughing and laughing. Like, and it was freaking me out. I thought I like messed her up. And she still says to this day, it was one of the best feelings ever that she came out and she just felt so good. She just let all of that stuff go, and she just felt wonderful. But it freaked me out a lot. Like
my mom is on drugs.
Right.
What
she
did
just
I do to
kept
her?
laughing and laughing and laughing. And I thought I messed something up in there, which you can't do. So,
because we still have control over our mind.
Right. Yeah.
And was that one that you went in with an intention, or you just went in just because?
I don't really remember. Okay. It was a long time ago, but I just remember the end being great for her and
weird for you.
Weird for me, and now that I know that, it's not, but at the time I was like, oh, this is messed up.
I do?
Right. And at the time I wasn't 100% sure, where it was all going. I was in high school and I was, reading books. There was no YouTube, and so it was just, I'd read books and then I'd try it, and then read some more books and then I'd try it. And then if things didn't go right, I read some more books
and try something
different, and, and you can't mess anybody up. I mean, you can kind of make them goofy for an hour or two or something, but when they come back out, you are who you are. You're not going to, you can make people believe that, a cigarette tastes like a dead rat for a little while, but even that will go away. Right. So, I mean, it only lasts for so long. And then, you can say, you just feel full. You don't want to eat so much all the time. Only good food really appeals to you, and you will for a few weeks. That'll feel good. But then like everything else, it will kind of it'll fade off. And then, you either have to do it again, or you got yourself into a rhythm where, you'll keep doing it.
So do you think you're living your life on purpose? Do you think you're living your purpose?
I wish I was. I don't know. I try to. Yeah.
What do you think your purpose is?
To help people.
You don't think you're doing that?
Oh, I am. I am. I'm not doing it on the scale I want to do it yet.
Yet. At least you said yet, so the door is still firmly open.
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of people, and some of it's because of our current world that we're living in. But I have a few kids right now that are suicidal. They're cutting themselves. They're hurting themselves. And they don't know. Most of the time it's because they don't know how to get good attention. They don't get that there's good attention and bad attention. And they just want attention. And they don't quite know how to deal with this. They don't quite know how to deal with being by themselves all the time and how to not be.
Is this stuff that arose during the lockdown, or that they were dealing with
I have more than but here's the thing. I've got a lot more students than I've ever had. So whether or not I would have had this many before, I don't know. But I've got more than I thought I would have had. I mean, so, and it's helped a lot of people already, and even over the years, I mean, I've had so many people that have gotten out of drugs and have changed their life. I get a lot of people that get, almost to a black belt or to a black belt, and their whole life is so different that they don't stay in Taekwondo because they think, well, I did it. I completed it. And everything's different. Old girlfriends come back. Their life's changed. They feel better about themselves and everything. And then eventually they quit, and then you see them about 5 years later. And a lot of times it goes back because you're not in the environment anymore. People just think, I got to help other people. But if you're not helping yourself,
you got to keep your picture full in order to be able to help other people. You can't give
anybody else stuff if you're empty, and so you got to keep yourself up. People don't know what People don't know what discipline is. They're attracted to discipline. They'll follow you anywhere if they think they can get it. If they think they can get that magic pill that's going to give them discipline,
but they don't understand that it comes from within.
Right. Well, it takes a lot of practice. You don't just have discipline, and you might think, I might go for a couple of months like, oh, I got lots of discipline, and then 3 months later go by and I'm, oh crap, I got to get back on those things again, because it ebbs and flows. You want to be disciplined all the time, but
stamina too.
Yeah. And I'm more disciplined than most people that I know, but I don't compare myself to most people. I compare myself to the, grand masters that are above me, not to the people that are below me. Right. So in rank, but yeah, so I set myself at a different standard.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because if you don't set yourself always comparing against a better you, you're never going to go up.
Right.
And I've heard Matthew McConaughey talk about that in terms of who is your idol, or who do you compare yourself against? And his standard response is me 5 years from now. Because I don't want to be the same person 5 years from now that I am today.
Yeah.
So I'm not comparing myself against anybody else but my future self. So I'm like, well, that's some great advice, that compete with yourself and where you want to be, and you emulate the people that are at that level that you want to hit.
That's because when he competed himself against me, it was always so, he didn't think he could reach it.
Right. He couldn't stoop that low. I forgot that one. All right. So, see, obviously ego is not your downfall. What is one of the best pieces of advice that you've received in your life so far? Other than everything that I've told you.
Right, yeah. Boy, I don't know. That's a hard one. Because everything is always so different. What I think is a really, really good piece of advice at one time doesn't always apply later.
No, but it's the advice that you needed at that point in time to
right to move where I am. So I'm always looking for more. So I don't know.
Well, what's one of those nuggets that you recall receiving that actually set you off onto maybe a different path or a clearer path to get where you wanted to go?
Well, I think a lot of it was the Tony Robbins thing was a big one lately. Where just not, you don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. You always want to be with somebody smarter than you, because that way you can learn about whatever that is, and that's where I started looking for those things. I kind of started looking for Maya. I started looking for, my Taekwondo was really good. But the business side was not at all, and so I needed to find somebody who could help me with the business end of it. And, the more that I do this stuff, the more I look and I think, okay, well, maybe I need some help with this part, and so then I start looking for, somebody to help with something else, or, because it's just faster to learn from somebody who already did it than try to do it yourself.
So going along those lines, how do you define success?
It kind of changes. It used to just be owning a martial arts school and, having, making black belts, and now that I've kind of accomplished those things, some of them, now, my next thing is having employees. Like, I want to be able to make enough money to be able to pay some people to help me do the things that I need to do. And I also can, help them, by giving them a job, hopefully that they like and they want to pursue. Who knows? Hopefully maybe we'll have 3-4 schools before we're done or more. And
never know.
Yeah.
All you got to do is set your intention, right?
Right. Well, and yeah, and it's, you set the intention and then you got to get help, you can set it all day, but you only know what you know.
And then you got to work to get there, and there's somebody that has already done it, and rather than reinventing the wheel, you
Right.
You find that someone to get you to the next level.
Yeah.
So one last question. If you could simply snap your fingers and you didn't have to do anything else, what would you change about today's society? Wide open.
Yeah. Well, and this will shock you, but I would make it mandatory for everybody to take Taekwondo. Like, I would make high schools.
I am just speechless.
Right. I would make it mandatory for everybody. But not only that, though, it would have to be by the right certified people, not just by anybody who thinks they can teach it. Right.
Why would that be? If you could snap and change the world, why would you require everybody to take Taekwondo in high school?
Because I think that it teaches you a work ethic. It teaches you how to focus. It teaches you that, you know, most problems in your life are your own. Like, if you want to change something, if you want something to change in your life, you need to change it. Nobody's going to do it for you. No matter how much you complain or how much you whine, that you have to make your own changes. You have to, you got to make your life what it is, and nobody's going to do it for you. And nobody owes it to you. You have to do it on your own. And quite frankly, nobody else cares.
That's true.
You know?
Despite what everybody thinks, that you're always supposed to care about me.
Right. You know, I mean, that's, what was it? Dr. Phil used to always say, if you got a dime for every time somebody talked about you behind your back, you'd have a dime. Because usually people are thinking about themselves or what's going on around. They don't spend as much time as you think thinking about you. They're thinking about
themselves.
They're thinking about themselves or what's going on in their life, or, you know, the people, you know, they might think about, you know, family or whatever, but they're not spending as much time as you think thinking about you or how they can, whatever, either destroy you or help you. That's not what they're, you know, they're not spending all day thinking about it, because you're not spending all day your time thinking about them. And there's just, frankly, there's too many people. I mean, if you took everybody I knew and I was supposed to focus on all of them, that's and how I was going to do that.
Though, is it?
That's only 5, but yeah. But even 5 is too much for me to think about. It's too much. You couldn't do it, you know? So you have to, if you want to help other people, you know, you have to, you know, it's like being rich. I mean, if you don't have money, you can't help nearly as many people as you could if you had money, whether you like it or not. You know, if you're a billionaire, you can help a lot more people than you can if you're not. I mean,
that's true.
And you could bust your butt all day, every single day, and work as hard as you could to help everybody that you possibly could. But you take somebody who's a billionaire, they just assign 50 people to do what you've been trying to do for 2 years. They assign 50 people to do it and put a bunch of money into it, and they could do it in 3 days.
Maybe.
You know.
Part of it depends on if the drive is there.
Right. True. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of those things that, you know, you have to.
Kind of like, but one of the things that you had said in terms of people thinking about you or spending their time, one of the philosophies I follow is what other people think of me is none of my business.
Right. Yeah.
Because it truly is. And if people are talking behind my back, I don't care.
I don't have time.
I don't have time. I don't care. And if they're talking about me, that means they're not talking about somebody else. So you go ahead. I don't care what you think about me, what you say about me. All that truly matters to me is what I say about me and what I can accomplish. And, you know, the discipline that you learn through Taekwondo and martial arts, I think goes along with that philosophy. Granted, I'm not a black belt or even a white belt.
We can fix that.
I know you can. So, Dolly Halama, I appreciate your time and I wish you the best.
Thank you.